All right, in this video, we're going to look at some of the piecewise defined functions that we saw in section 3.4. We're going to get a little bit extra practice on these, look at some different ones that were from what was in the other videos. So here's one that should look a little bit similar to what was in the homework. But remember, before you get started on these, you really want to think about what type of picture you're looking for. So we've got to think about what type of functions these are. We've got the left piece goes between -3 and 0, and you should identify this as being linear. So we've got a line. And then after 0, starting at 0 and after, we've got square root. So think about that. You've got a line between -3 and 0, and you've got a square root. So in your head, you should be picturing something like maybe this, a line here, closed dot, open dot. We don't really know where that is, but some sort of line. And then after that, we've got square root, something like that. So this is what you should be thinking about in your head. And then we just have to figure out where it's going to go. So in order to figure out where it's going to go, we're going to start with these endpoints because they're going to kind of anchor the graph to the page and help us figure this out. So this line, let's start with the left piece. The line goes between -3 and 0. So at -3, we have a closed dot because that is less than or equal to, it's included, so it makes it a closed dot. So we've got a closed dot at -3. And to figure out where to put that closed dot, we need a y value. So we're going to plug that -3 in right here and figure out our y value. So we're going to have -3 plus 2. That's going to give me +3 plus 2 is 5. So we have a closed dot at -3, 5. So let's go ahead and put that on the page. I'll go back to black here. -3, 2, 3, 4, 5, -3, 5 right there. All right, so that's one side here. Let's do another color so this doesn't get confusing. Okay, on the other side, we're still working on the line. On the other side, our line is going to have an open dot on the other end. So we've got an open dot at 0. And when we plug that in here, we get 2. So we've got an open dot at 0, 2. So let's put that on the page. Okay, so not too far from what I had put on there just as a guess. So we've got closed dot on one side, open dot on the other side, and we know that this is a line in between. So we don't need to plot any points because we know that we can just connect these two and we've got our line. Okay, so there's our line going between -3 and 0. All right, so that's the left piece right here, and that is done. So we've got to make sure that we end at -3 and we end at 0. We did, and so now we're done. So now going to the right piece, we've got the square root of x starting at 0 with a closed dot. So we should know where that is just from knowing what square root of x looks like, but we can go ahead and plug it in. We've got a closed dot at 0, and when we plug that now into our right piece, sorry, y equals the square root of 0 is 0. So we've got a closed dot at 0, 0 for the right piece. Okay, we also already knew that because we know what square root of x looks like. Oh, sorry, that should be in black. Graph in black. Okay, so from here, we're going to the right. This piece tells us to go to the right, and we want to look like the square root of x. You can plot some more points if you want to, but we know what the square root of x looks like. We know that it has to go like that. So we can go ahead and fill that in. We don't need to plot more points to figure it out. So now we've got our piece of line and our square root graph. We've covered everything, and we are done with this graph. All right, now if we want to do function values. So let's say we want to find f of -1. F of -1. So remember, we can only plug one x in and get one y out again. So we have to figure out where to plug this in. So x is -1. We want to plug in -1 for x. So where are we going to do that? We look over here to figure it out. Is -1 between -3 and 0, or is it bigger than 0? Well, we know that -1 is between -3 and 0. So this is the interval that's true. So this is the piece right here that we plug it into. Okay, we're going to plug it into this piece because that's the right interval. So plugging that in, we get -1 plus 2. that's positive 1 plus 2 is 3. So when x is negative 1, y is 3. And you can see that on the graph. When x is negative 1, y is 3. That matches the graph. All right, if we want to find f of 0, this time we're plugging in 0. So when we look up here, we see 0 in both spots, but 0 is included in the second one. 0 is included in the second one. So we're going to use the second function. Square root of 0 is equal to 0. Okay, so f of 0 is equal to 0. And let's say that we want to plug in 4. So you come up in here and you say, okay, where is 4? Is 4 between negative 3 and 0? No, it's not. Is 4 bigger than 0? Yes, it is. So I'm going to use this piece right here to plug in 4. So we plug 4 into the square root, and the square root of 4 is 2. And you can see that over here, 1, 2, 3, well, my graph's a little bit off, but 4, 2 is where the graph should pass through. Okay, so that's one example of graphing a function and finding the function values.